Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Going to sit here and wait just a couple minutes while we wait for people to file in, and we'll start in 5 minutes at 5 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be looking at the big three. We're going to be looking at OMG, NEO, XMR, ADA, and NANO, all on the longer term timeframes, and then zooming into the shorter term timeframes. Also going to talk a bit about shifting trading strategy with the shifting market and going from more opportunity as day traders to more opportunity as swing traders as the volatility and volume shrinks up in this current state that we're in. We have to adjust the way that we're trading. Otherwise, we will overtrade. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Things to be looking for in terms of entering on this little uptrend that we're in. So just a few more minutes here and we will get going. And we'll have chart guys Jason monitoring the YouTube chat. So I'll check out the YouTube chat towards the end. But as of right now, going to just be in the zone. Speaking right on cue, trading book I'm going to be reading shortly. Trading in the Zone. Have not read it yet, so can't really give a review, but have heard good things about it from other members that have read it. It's more about the psychology of trading and just going through it and reading the intro and all that. Definitely makes me intrigued to read it. So doing a lot of traveling the next couple of months, and hopefully we'll have some time to read it. And we'll certainly recommend that to everybody if it is something that I feel will be beneficial. So check that book out if you're interested trading in the zone. Also going to be going to Austin, Texas for South by Southwest in about a week and a half, and going to be checking out an event there, Dash Fest. It's a 3-day music event, and it is free, but they're going to be selling 25-cent beers and tacos and things like that, and everything's going to be paid for in Dash. So I'm going to be going and just sitting as a fly on the wall and watching how people who are not familiar with cryptocurrency, how quickly it takes for them to download an app or whatever they need to utilize cryptocurrency and use it in the real world. So I'm pretty interested to see how that's going to go. And as far as Dash, the coin itself, I'm not very in-depthly familiar with the fundamentals of it. I do like their platform in terms of they have a certain amount of coins that get generated, and then they vote as a community on what those funds get used for, whether it's for advertising or for supporting an entrepreneur's project or things like that. So I definitely like that style of community voting on things, but very curious to see how this event does play out. And like I said, a real world usage, are people going to be, is it going to be easy for people to adopt? That's what I'm going to be watching. If it takes people 10 minutes standing there trying to get a beer to do so with Dash, that's obviously going to be an issue. So that's going to be very informative. So looking forward to that. Going to give away some free courses, and not going to do it with the YouTube chat, going to do it with the YouTube video. Once it's uploaded and recorded, comment on that and we will choose the random winners. And again, that's what we've been saying is, people that take both of our courses, we put them to the front of the line in terms of the membership wait list, which is now over 2,500 people long. And that's just for ease of assimilation, and people already speak the language once they come in. So we're going to give away some free courses to people to help them on that path towards, taking step number 1. And on the theme of do good things, we'll get started here in just a couple minutes, but highly suggest, as I have in the past, teaching other people technical analysis. Obviously, if you're in your first month or 2 of learning, you still have a ways to go, but if you're getting comfortable and you're understanding concepts, I cannot stress enough how teaching other people will help you exponentially in terms of grasping these concepts. And I'm twice the trader that I was 3 years ago when the chart guys started, very easily. And it's because of reinforcing all these concepts and answering questions and just constantly thinking about technical analysis. So I've been teaching someone in person recently, and they are now teaching other people. So they've graduated, so to speak, from the intro course level. They've gone over the courses. They've gone over a lot of examples of trading. They've made a lot of trades. They've made a lot of mistakes. That's very key. You have to make mistakes to be able to learn from them. And so now they're being able to teach the basics to other people. And I highly suggest everybody does that. Everybody that is now a part of the Chart Guys team that started as just a regular old member, they all say the same thing, where, it significantly helped their own game by helping others with the more basic stuff. So just a couple more minutes here. And the Bitcoin bulls are definitely showing their strength, and they're pretty close to a key resistance. It's going to be a pretty interesting next day or two to see if the bulls can punch through this resistance. And again, said so in the last video, but we have added the volume indicators to the alert system for Binance, and those will be live early this coming week, probably tomorrow. And that will be good. Some exchanges definitely give us a lot more issues than others in terms of their volume data with their WebSockets and the way that we receive things, and whether it's, a constant stream or there's interruptions in the stream on their end. So we're definitely working through that with some of the exchanges, but glad to finally get Binance up and going, as that is certainly a popular exchange. And it's 5 o'clock, so let's get into it. To enter into the free course, once the video is uploaded and recorded, comment on the YouTube video, and I will randomly select some people for those courses. So Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. We're going to start with everything on the weekly time frame. And what I'm looking for when I look at the weekly time frame is how close do these names look to equilibrium patterns? That's what I'm looking for to happen. I'm looking for our all-time high, the low of the dump. I'm looking for a bounce to form a lower high. In the past, a couple weeks ago, I said just visually, I would be looking around the 1400 area. A lot of people ask me, do I use Elliott Wave? Do I use Fibonacci's? The answer is no, but I notice in the own style that I have developed that I definitely use some of the key concepts in both of those indicators that I can recognize that, yes, I use, very similar things. So that's what I'm doing, when I'm looking just visually and saying, okay, I would expect a lower high to form around the 1400 area. That's me visually looking at a Fibonacci level, whereas someone else would, put the lines in and watch the percentage points for those lines. I don't do that, but I do definitely look visually after seeing charts, how many equilibrium patterns I've seen play in the last 8 years. The answer is tens of thousands at this point. And it's just a general feel of where I would anticipate the bulls to make it towards. And I'm still sticking with that 14,000 level to be looking for the bulls to make their way up to that point over the next couple of weeks. So I am bullish on Bitcoin. And the fact that the daily chart has us right up at this resistance is a great sign. And even if we don't break this resistance on this attempt, we are stalling out a couple $100 shy. We will be looking for a daily higher low to form to keep us within striking distance. So I pointed out in the video yesterday the potential cup and handle pattern that is currently forming with our left side of resistance, the consolidation, the right side is unable to break the left side of resistance, and then we see some healthy consolidation to form the handle before a breakout. I am definitely keeping an eye on Bitcoin for that potential pattern. And the 4-hour chart is showing strength as well. We consolidated overnight. Look at the declining bear volume. That's a good sign. We have our higher low on and actually it wasn't an ideal higher low. We did lose a little bit of support here. There's a little bull flag, but we have a support level that we're watching now, $11,041. Bulls really want to hold $11,041 to remain in full control. Again, here's our little lower high forming. There's no red flag at this point. And just going back to the daily, you could say, well, this is a bearish reversal hanging man candlestick. And I wouldn't argue that. It is either going to be a dragonfly doji or a hanging man candlestick. It will also be an inside bar. But I'm more concerned with the more detailed 4-hour time frame. If we consolidate, unable to break 11,500, and we still form a higher low comparative to 11,041, the bulls are still just fine and certainly within striking distance of that resistance. And as we'll see in just a moment, the bulls can very easily wake up and quickly move $300 in the matter of an hour or two. So I favor the bulls on Bitcoin. I am bullish on Bitcoin. First red flag that would make me shift my perspective would be a break of $11,041 if we cannot break 11,500. And of course, the key level on the daily is the top of the bounce at this point, 11,775 on Coinbase. So bulls still in full control. 15-minute time frame really gave us a nice pattern. And look at this descending triangle pattern. We had a double bottom of support and just a clear lower high as we got tighter and tighter. So we have our support, lower high, double bottom, lower high, extremely tight, volume almost disappears, and then a volume spike and a clear bull break. So this would be, 15-minute price shears, abnormal volume. All of this would be indicated on this bull break, and really nice follow through. The bull break broke the lower high pattern here. Our last lower high on the 15-minute was 11,165. As soon as that broke, the lower high pattern breaks and the bulls all show up and the volume pours in. And just a couple hours later, we made it up to 11,400. So essentially we ran $280 in 2 hours, and those are some decent gains. Like I said, we're going to talk about a shift where we were used to more volatility and day trading was the way to go to capitalize on that volatility. Now things are changing. We're seeing a $200, $300 move rather than happening in 15 minutes. It's happening in over a few hours. So it requires more patience and it requires a different trading strategy. And after I go over the big three, I will talk about that difference between day trading and swing trading and things that we can potentially look for. But that was just an example of a really nice descending triangle pattern that had a clear bull break and some decent follow through behind it. And just seeing what it looked like on the hourly time frame, you could call it an equilibrium pattern as well because we did maintain higher lows. Either one would be right. It's a consolidation pattern that shows a tightening range and a clear bull break. And this one was also marked, actually it was not marked by an hourly inside bar bull break by less than $1. So that wouldn't have signaled, but the 15-minute time frame certainly did. So that's where we stand on Bitcoin. Again, I am very bullish. 4-hour bull MAC decross could be setting up here, ready for a push over 11,500 and a bull cross. And again, it's all about the support, $11,041. If that holds, I am bullish Bitcoin on almost all time frames, not the weekly, of course. Checking in on Ethereum. So we've been watching Ethereum as a big time laggard and definitely the weakest name of the big three over the past couple of weeks. And here we are on the daily time frame forming an inside bar that's going to close very soon. Or actually, this is the weekly time frame, excuse me. But this is not a solid bounce at this point. And just comparing Bitcoin, which sees a little bit more follow through, and Litecoin we'll look at just real quick, even more follow through due to the light pay momentum. Ethereum is not seeing a strong bounce at all. We haven't even seen 2 green weeks in a row in a while. The daily time frame is showing that we're just trading sideways. It's in a no trade zone and actually did have a bear break. Obviously, the correlation to Bitcoin is going to be very strong, so it's going to keep us tight in the sense that, even though we saw a bear break on this daily time frame, breaking below that 845 double bottom, we didn't all-out collapse because Bitcoin is still holding strength. And it's unlikely that Ethereum is going to see an all-out dump unless Bitcoin does as well. It's going to be progressively weaker than Bitcoin, but in terms of an all-out dump to get significantly weaker, it's not really going to happen at this point. So I'm still not really liking Ethereum. I'm watching ETH BTC, and that's the chart that we watch for the comparison when we're looking, which name should I be trading? Should I be trading Litecoin, Bitcoin, or Ethereum if you're only looking at the big three? And these charts give us a clue. So what I'm looking at is the daily chart, and I'm seeing the RSI bounced off of 30 and gave us 5 green days in a row a couple weeks ago. Here we are with the RSI at 30, and we're trying to form a bullish reversal candlestick and see a little bit more of a bounce follow through. I also look at the weekly time frame and say, okay, this weekly time frame is very likely to form a higher low. And I can say that because of the magnitude of the bull move that we are now consolidating from. We have only given back about a third of that bull move, and it's been, 4 weeks, 5 weeks of consolidation on very low volume. So I am anticipating the weekly time frame to form a higher low and for the bulls to show up in this ETH BTC pairing and for ETH to be stronger than BTC sooner rather than later. That doesn't mean I'm going to be sitting here trying to, play ETH and hope to get lucky. I'm going to have to see the sign of the bulls showing up because for this weekly higher low to form, we have to see the daily chart form a higher low and higher high. And if you've been watching these videos for a prolonged period of time at this point, you know that if we're looking for a higher low to form on the hourly, we need 15-minute higher lows and higher highs. If we're looking for it to form on the 4-hour, we need an hourly higher low and higher high. So if we're looking for healthy consolidation on a certain time frame, the time frame that's preceding that in terms of length of time, the smaller time frame, needs to see the higher low and higher high for us to have confidence in the longer term time frame. So once this daily chart gives us a higher low and higher high to start changing the trend, then we are confident that our weekly higher low has been established and the bulls are going to make their way showing back up again. So again, I'm not anticipating the ETH bulls to see significant strength comparative to Bitcoin anytime soon, but just looking at the daily and the weekly chart, I know to be keeping an eye out for it because like I said, it's likely to happen sooner rather than later. So the daily time frame for Ethereum right now, the key resistance is, there's a couple key resistances. The first one is 894, and the next one is the high of the bounce, 983. And you can see where we stand right now in this moment. We are well below 10% below the high of this bounce. And we look at Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is only about 3.5% from the high of the bounce. So again, it just shows the comparative strength. Bitcoin has been the clear leader over the past, 2 weeks at this point. And Ethereum is still struggling. And you could make the argument that this bounce is a bearish reversal head and shoulders pattern forming on the daily time frame for Ethereum if we were to come back down and break this support level of 786 and 780. So those are the absolute must-hold levels at this point. And there's just not enough on this daily chart for me to be looking confidently at Ethereum. So if I'm the kind of trader that's, that's agile with my money and I'm not going to let it sit in a certain name, I would only be trading Litecoin or Bitcoin for the last couple of weeks. And Ethereum bulls have to prove something to me for me to be interested in playing it at this point. So the 4-hour time frame is a very clear lower high, lower low pattern. Here's another example of a descending triangle pattern, similar to the one we just saw on the Bitcoin 15-minute time frame. Here it is on the 4-hour time frame. So same thing, just longer term. We have our lower high, double bottom of support essentially, another lower high. This was a bear break, and the bulls are trying to turn things around thanks to the Bitcoin correlation, but we're still forming lower highs. I can see the high of the last bounce attempt was 866.72, and here we are topping out just below that level at 865. So it is still a lower high pattern. The bulls are doing nothing to change this trend. We're forming a 4-hour inside bar that's going to close in just about 2 hours, and we're waiting because these bulls are proving nothing to us. It's a solid bounce. There were nice gains off of the low, but in terms of changing this 4-hour trend from a downtrend to an uptrend, it's not happening yet. And we need a higher low. We either need to break this resistance to break the lower highs, and then we will anticipate a higher low to form, or we reject, form just another lower high, and then we have to form a higher low and then break those resistances to change this trend. We are on the verge of a 4-hour bull MAC decross, so we will be watching for the bulls to break this momentum and to turn the momentum back towards the bulls. But again, at this point, they still have proving to do. And just a comparison of where Bitcoin is on the 4-hour time frame, again, so much stronger. We only have a couple resistance levels to be looking at where I can pick out Ethereum, 4 resistances just from the last couple of days that the bulls still have to work through. And the hourly time frame, potential bull flag. Let's see if the bulls are able to break this resistance and break this downtrend to start to favor the bulls. Checking in on Litecoin. So Litecoin weekly chart, due to the LitePay bull momentum and the follow through that we did see from the low, is the best looking chart in my opinion in terms of forming the equilibrium pattern. So we have our high, low of the dump, and we are looking for a lower high to form, and we're not confident that it is forming yet. We have a weekly inside bar forming. The daily chart is still in a higher low uptrend, but it's also in a lower high downtrend. I would love it if the entire cryptocurrency space had a daily chart that looked like this, because again, it is so clear when we are going to break these levels that we will see some clarity in terms of direction. So we have our high, low, lower high, higher low, lower high here. And the tight range that I am currently watching is support of 205.20 and resistance of 217.50. So we're getting real tight. We have a $12 difference, $12.50 between the high and the low. I'm anticipating a break within 2 days and probably within 1 day, but just to be safe, we'll call it within 2 days. And this is going to determine, well, actually I have to take that back, because normally, if this were any other individual name or any stock or anything like that, I would say the direction that we break from this daily equilibrium pattern is going to indicate the momentum for the next week or two and the follow through. But if we make a bull break and then Bitcoin pulls back, or vice versa, if we make a bear break and then Bitcoin breaks out, that's going to be the most important factor. We could very easily break a resistance or support level, and if Bitcoin does not follow through in the direction of the move that Litecoin is going to break, it's going to potentially give a false technical signal and not give that follow through. So we have to see not only the break in the direction of this trend, but we have to make sure that Bitcoin is following in the same direction for us to be confident that there is going to be multiple days of follow through once the break does occur. So clearly tightening up this range, the 4-hour time frame, there is our range right now with our recent higher low and our clear resistance. And we're just waiting very patiently for this break to occur again sometime, very likely in the next 2 days. And if Bitcoin's going to break over 11,775 and see daily continuation, 12,000 will be the next resistance for Bitcoin. But if that break does occur, the odds of Litecoin breaking bullish of that equilibrium pattern are extremely likely. So again, not only are the price levels on the daily time frame the most important, but I would say just as equally as important is going to be the direction that Bitcoin is heading at the time of the break, and if it follows in the same direction. So that's where we stand for the big three. We're getting some clear tightening ranges. We're watching Bitcoin. We should know within the next 2 days whether Bitcoin's going to break 11,700 or head back down to 11,000. And Litecoin, we're going to get a break then as well. And as far as Ethereum goes, on the daily time frame, again, very tight the last 5 days. And same thing, if Bitcoin breaks bullish over 11,700, we're going to be looking for Ethereum to slowly be making its way back up towards 900, but of course a bit behind the pack until we see volume or some kind of reason for these bulls to be looking at Ethereum as opposed to Litecoin or Bitcoin, which are seeing more bullish moves over the past couple of weeks. So again, it's the Ethereum bulls needing to give us a reason to play them. And at this point, they have not given us a reason in a couple of weeks. So before we get into these Litecoins, a couple things I want to talk about. First off, swing traders versus day traders. So the opportunity that we have been seeing on this daily time frame is now favoring swing traders more than day traders. Back when we were having, $500 to $1,000 moves on Bitcoin in one day, that's when we were looking great for day trading. We had volatility all over the place. And I can remember capturing the percentage moves in an hour that it now takes multiple days to play out. So we have to shift our strategy. Again, if I were trading in the same style 4 months ago and doing that now, I would be losing. I would be giving back a lot of my profit. And that's because we need to slow down. We need to be more picky with our trades. We need to be more patient with our trades and let them play out a little bit longer. So there's a couple ways that we can be looking for entries in this scenario. So I want to point out, first off, the overall trend on the daily time frame, because that's most important. That's where we get our initial information. If we are in a downtrend on the daily time frame, the indicators on the shorter term time frames are going to be giving us signals at different levels. We can remember on these downtrends, before we hit the low in the $5,000 range, there were often times where the 15-minute RSI would hit 20 and the hourly RSI would hit 20. And we haven't seen that happen ever since the bulls started the uptrend. So whether we're in a downtrend or an uptrend on the daily time frame lets us know whether we're looking for more extreme oversold RSI levels or whether we're looking for the bulls to buy the dips right as soon as we get oversold. So since we've been in an uptrend, and of course, I'm just looking at little snapshots and saying, okay, we've been in an uptrend on Bitcoin for the last, let's see, about a month at this point. And yep, that's about a month. So I can say we are in an uptrend the last month, which means when I'm looking for an entry, I'm looking back historically and saying, where is the RSI bouncing? Where is the consolidation lows occurring? And first we'll start on the longer term time frame. So here we go, scrolling all the way back on the hourly chart. This is our bottom down at in the 5,000s. Ever since that bottom was hit, look at the hourly RSI. The lowest that it gets is just barely touching 30 or just barely touching below 30. Every single entry with the hourly RSI hitting 30 while we're in an uptrend has led to some decent follow through. And the way that we are playing swing trades, or the way that I would play swing trades, is to enter and look to set a break-even stop loss. Because if you're looking to capture small gains on small bounces, that's a completely different strategy. And you're, locking in your 1% every day and you're happy. But if you're looking to be a swing trader and try and capture a little bit more percentage moves, setting a stop loss at break even and letting the play out, because the trend is in your favor, you should be comfortable letting the play out as long as you have your trade protected, then that's what we're looking to do. So just an example, let's say if you entered on the hourly RSI being oversold and you make an entry and the bounce follows through, at that point, once that bounce follows through, again, you're met with two scenarios. You can either lock in your profit or you can try and see a more significant bounce play out. And because that bounce has played out to this degree, you can set your stop loss at break even. You have plenty of room as the move is playing out. Obviously, there's a lot of these moves that did not follow through. So this would be the kind of scenario where you might get frustrated and say, why do I keep getting stopped out at break even? I should be locking in this profit and locking in this 3 to 4%, on every bounce attempt, because we just keep dropping down to lower lows. And again, that depends on what your style of trading is and whether you want to lock in these short-term gains or whether you want to let it ride. With me personally, my trading style, I am going to lock in those gains. I'm not going to try and patiently wait for the 10% move. I'm going to be locking gains every day because my goal is to have more money than yesterday. That's my goal, because it's going to allow me to accrue more crypto at a time where I feel it's more ideal, or use it in other things, other places like stocks. So for me, on these hourly oversold bounces, I'm going to be locking in profit. But if you're looking to change the trend and get in on a long-term, more bull move, we have a couple scenarios. You're entering at the RSI hitting 30, or that's a higher risk, higher reward trade. And that's because the trend is going against you. You're trying to fight the trend and find that bottom. You're going to get stopped out a lot. If you want to be more patient, you're going to give up reward, and you're also going to give up risk. And that's for waiting for the trend to change from lower highs and lower lows to a higher low and a higher high. So that in that scenario, you're not making an entry when the RSI hits 30, because that's likely happening at a new low. You're waiting for a higher low and a higher high to make your entry. And again, a couple times that will give you a false signal. There were a couple times back here, one time specifically, that it gave a false signal and wasn't the bottom. But that in general is going to eliminate, or I shouldn't say eliminate, it's going to decrease the amount of risk and reward because you're waiting till the trend shifts in your favor. So not only did we have the hourly RSI only touching 30 and not giving us oversold climaxes and dropping down into the low 20s, but the 15-minute time frame has been doing it as well. So ever since we established our higher low, our most recent higher low on the daily in the low $9,000 range, the 15-minute RSI has hardly hit oversold levels. So if I scroll back to when we were in the downtrend before hitting 5,000, this 15-minute RSI was consistently bouncing off of 20. And you can just look back historically, and it dipped well below 20 many times because we were in a downtrend. As soon as we hit the bottom and we started the uptrend, and I pointed this out in a video a couple days ago, and since pointing it out, it continues to play out. But the 15-minute RSI hits 30 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times without dipping down into the mid-20s or even the low 20s. It touches 30 and the bulls buy the dip. That is a signal that tells us there are people on the sidelines waiting to buy oversold conditions at any opportunity that they can. We saw this on the uptrend back in the summer when the bulls were crazy strong. Every single time the 5-minute RSI hit 30 or hit 30, we made an entry, and it was a guaranteed entry at that point in time. It must have played out, 24 out of 25 times. If you buy the 5-minute oversold RSI, you're going to see bullish continuation and follow through. So here on this 15-minute time frame, once our daily higher low is established, now the 15-minute time frame is not getting to extreme oversold levels. And if you look back historically, what were my best entry opportunities? It's the 15-minute RSI hitting 30. Again, not every single time it hits 30 are we going to change the trend, but it's going to allow you an opportunity to set your stop loss at break even. And there is no more comfortable situation to be in than when your stop loss is at break even and you know that you're either going to see a trade play out in your favor or you're going to get stopped out and have all cash and be scouting the next trade. So the 15-minute RSI hitting 30 has been an indication to be looking for the bulls to show back up. And that has been played out time and time again. And again, same with the 15-minute time frame. You're either waiting for the RSI to hit 30 to be making an entry, or you're waiting for the trend to change with higher lows and higher highs. So this break that we just had recently earlier today, when we had that descending triangle pattern, you could have made a bull entry on that break of the lower high pattern. And the RSI, of course, was nowhere near 30. And we saw a very significant follow through for those bulls in a pretty short amount of time. So again, if you can lock away 2 or 3% in a day, you're going to be just fine if you can pull that off day after day. So again, it's all about strategy. There's two different styles. You are either looking for your entries of swing trades when the 15-minute or hourly RSIs are getting to that 30 oversold level, or you're waiting for tight patterns to give you clear breaks. And of course, with that information, you're looking at every time frame, and it can seem overwhelming. How many time frames do I need to look at? Well, you want the complete picture. And if the RSI on 70, or I should say if the RSI on the 4-hour time frame is at 70 or just above 70, I know that I need to be a little bit more patient for an entry because we are probably going to see some 4-hour consolidation sooner rather than later. So the 4-hour consolidation that we recently just had on Bitcoin pulled back. And where was the hourly RSI down at those lows? It was nowhere near 30. Where was the 15-minute RSI down near those lows? It bounced right from 30, just below 30. So watching for that 15-minute RSI has been the best indicator. Again, it doesn't play out every time. It's not the bottom every time, but it gives you an opportunity to put your stop loss at break even and have the potential of it being the bottom and seeing some follow through. So now before we go on to the altcoins, I want to talk a little bit about my fundamental opinion of the altcoins. As I've been saying in these videos for the last 6-8 months, I am a believer that 90% of altcoins are going to be worthless eventually. There's too many, and it's, everybody, I've seen this play out before in the USMJ sector. Again, that's before all these altcoins showed up. I said, watch for all these altcoins to show up, watch for a lot of them to be scams because people see the money and they jump in. We saw this with the MJ sector where, 300 companies popped up out of nowhere and oil and natural gas companies were just changing their company name and changing their business model. And all of a sudden their stock would run even though the company didn't do anything. So I'm applying the same thing that I saw play out in that space to the crypto space. And some of them will be winners and make a lot of people a lot of money, but the vast majority of them won't. So that's why I'm not personally sitting here spending the time doing fundamental research. I could do fundamental research and 100 hours of research on all these different coins. And if only 1 out of 10 of them, in my opinion, is going to be worthwhile, I'm going to be wasting a lot of time. I'm not trying to find a needle in the haystack. And, every single story, every community out there for an altcoin, they have a great story. Their development team tells them everything that they want to hear. The bad news isn't really published, just like stocks don't put out press releases highlighting bad news. It's only good news, and it's only what they want investors to see. You have to dig through the financials to see the bad news, or you have to dig through, the white paper or things like that to see the bad news in these ICOs or the team's past or things like that. So I personally am not looking to find the needle in the haystack. For those of you that are, it's important to have game plans. Always have a game plan. So we see times like this when Bitcoin has some strength and there's a lot of altcoins that are just slow bleeding. And people are wondering, oh man, it's just going down forever. Should I sell? Should I play Bitcoin? And that's, again, it's reacting to emotions if you don't have a game plan. If you are in a position and you are long-term, that's fine. You need to have your game plan established. Are you in this with a sinking ship? If the altcoin goes down to zero, are you going to ride it down into the dirt? If that's the case, then so be it. You have no decisions to make. Otherwise, you should have a level and say, if it hits this level, I am going to exit this altcoin position and be all cash and then reassess the situation. Either put that cash to work somewhere else or look to reload the altcoin at a cheaper level once the dust settles a little bit. So again, it's the lack of having a game plan that will allow you to make a decision in the heat of the moment and will probably end up costing you money. So it's essential. If you like the altcoin and you like the fundamentals behind it, that's perfectly fine, but have a game plan and say, if it hits this price point, I'm going to sell. And at that point, the absolute most risk that you have on the table. And that can also help you sleep easy. And, you don't have to make a decision. Has it hit my stop loss level yet? No. All right. I don't have to do anything. And I can just patiently wait and see if the bulls show up. Otherwise, I patiently wait until my stop loss level is hit. Another thing on why these names are slow bleeding, these altcoins are dependent on news to run. So they need, new developments. They need partnerships with so-and-so company to get their name back in the headlines, to get the crypto space interested in them. The crypto space is full of ADD, and that's because everybody loves the big gains and loves the big moves, and they're jumping from one coin to the next, whoever has the big moves. So there's a lot of traders out there that don't care about the fundamentals, and they help these coins get their breakouts when the news comes along because they're just jumping on the volume and the hype. So what happens is supply and demand. And again, it's similar to stocks that have dilution. If you have a low cap stock and it's not making profit at this point, it has to sell shares to run as a company, to keep the lights on, to pay its employees and things like that. If you have a cryptocurrency, an altcoin, and it's being mined and there's continuously coins coming into circulation, or they're doing airdrops, which increases supply, anything that increases the supply of coins, and if there's not any kind of news event to increase the demand of coins, it's going to lead to a slow bleed and just a slow and steady downtrend. And that's because there is no reason for traders and other people to jump in on this coin if there's no news hype around it. So that's where the slow bleed comes from. It's dilution. It's supply and demand. If the supply of coins is increasing and demand is staying the same, the price is going to slowly go down. So let's get into some of these coins now. We're going to be looking at OMG USD. Again, the first thing that I'm looking for on the weekly time frame is how close to this does this name look to forming an equilibrium pattern on the weekly chart. All-time high, low of the pullback, and we're watching for a lower high, and this is the range where I would anticipate a lower high to form. And again, when I look back at Bitcoin or Ethereum, I'd say, well, this bounce hasn't really followed through. I would expect more of a bounce for this lower high to follow through and to form that lower high, and OMG has bounced a lot more significantly, so this looks a lot more like an equilibrium pattern is setting up on the weekly time frame. Now, for me to be confident that our lower high is set on the weekly chart, I'm looking for the daily higher lows to be lost. So the daily higher lows are not really lost yet. We did have a little bit of a break here. No real follow through. The bulls still managed to close above this support level. We had a couple little wicks dip below it, but still built this base of support. And now the bulls are trying to form another higher low off of 1696. So I would say support is down at 1551 and now 1696 for the bulls to maintain these daily higher lows. If we lose these higher lows, and I can't be confident just yet that this is our daily higher low at 16.96 because we don't have any follow through. I need another green day tomorrow and confirmation that this is our higher low. If we do get that green day, it's all about 1696. And if 1696 breaks, then the odds that the weekly lower high has formed will increase. If the daily higher low pattern stays intact, then the odds that the bulls can see continuation remains fairly likely. So it's all about the daily higher low pattern at this point. Resistance is going to be up at the top of the bounce, $20.84, and we'll see if we can get some follow through. Again, the 4-hour time frame is bouncing off of the low of this consolidation. This is why I can't be confident that our daily higher low has been established yet. And that's because we are still in a 4-hour lower high pattern. And as long as that is the case, we could easily pull back here and drop down to a lower low. It's the 4-hour time frame giving us a higher low and a higher high that I'm looking for to be confident the daily chart is our higher low. So I just made this point a little bit earlier in this video where I said if you're looking for a higher low on a certain time frame, you need to zoom into the previous time frame before it and look for the higher low and higher high to form. So if I'm looking for the daily higher low on OMG to form, I need to see the 4-hour time frame give me that higher low and higher high to be confident that the daily higher low has formed. Hopefully I'm not losing too many people with all the high and low talk, but if I am, again, once this is recorded, I suggest slowing down the speed a little bit and watching it all to try and absorb this information because it's useful. So 4-hour time frame needs to break the lower high pattern. The last lower high was 1910, and it looks like we're topping out now at 1845. Can I be confident that the lower high is formed on this 4-hour time frame? Well, has the hourly chart lost the higher low pattern? So hopefully you can see what I'm doing here on these time frames is all relevant and it works in both directions. So I'm not confident that our daily lower high, our 4-hour lower high has been set unless we lose the hourly higher low pattern, which is right here at $17.96. As soon as that level is lost, the odds that the 4-hour lower high has formed increase significantly. So that's a key support level to be watching in the short term. So overall, the daily time frame is still bullish for OMG. It's still forming higher lows now that we've got all these support and resistance lines drawn here. And the weekly chart had a very solid bounce from the low of the dump. So the question is, can the bulls keep the daily higher low pattern? So far, so good. And if that changes, then we know that our weekly equilibrium pattern is likely to continue forming and tightening up with our new lower high being established. So the daily time frame is the most important time frame for me right now on OMG, and watching to see if this 19 or make this the 1696 level, if that is our new higher low, if the 4-hour time frame could give me the follow through that I'm looking for. So NEO on the weekly time frame, again, same thing. What does it look like in terms of the equilibrium pattern and looking for that potential lower high to be set? Is this our lower high? Well, have we lost the daily higher low pattern yet? And the answer is no. We are still forming a higher low. The most recent one was down here at 107.97, and the bulls are looking to hold that level. If we break 107.97, the odds that our weekly lower high has been set will increase significantly. 4-hour time frame still in a very clear lower high, lower low pattern. So the daily chart is trying to form another higher low, but I can't be confident that that daily higher low has formed until I get a 4-hour higher low, which is trying, and then higher high. So we need to see the bulls break resistance of 125. That's our last lower high. And support right now is 115. So the range I'm watching is 115 support and 125 resistance. Break 125 and I'll be a lot more confident that our new daily higher low is in and the bulls are going to be making their way back up to the 130s and 140s. Checking in on XMR, and just to go over the exchanges, OMG, NEO, and XMR are all on Bitfinex. We're going to look at ADA, BTC on Bittrex, and then Nano USD is on Binance. So XMR looking pretty good for the potential equilibrium pattern. And at this point, I would use this resistance because we had a little double top there around the 450 level. So that's the high I'm watching, even though it's not the all-time high. That's the resistance I'm watching. I'm watching the low and watching for a lower high to be set. It does not look like our lower high is set yet because we don't have much of an upper wick. So before I even look at the daily chart here, I know that we have not lost the daily higher low pattern because we're nowhere near this chart looking weak on the weekly time frame just yet. So here's the daily higher low pattern very much intact. I look at this chart and I say, wow, this chart is much more bullish than Bitcoin. So again, I'm always using the Bitcoin benchmark and I'm watching to see how does the individual name compare on the daily chart, on the 4-hour chart to Bitcoin? If it is showing more bullish strength, then it goes in one category. More bullish than Bitcoin. If it's showing less strength, it's less bullish, it's more bearish than Bitcoin. That's how I distribute every single individual name. So I can see XMR has already broken the top of the bounce back from in the mid-February range. And I look at Bitcoin on the daily, and have we broken the mid-February range? No, we have not. So it is more bullish than Bitcoin and still following through very strong. We have a couple higher lows to be watching. The most recent higher low, I would probably call it here at 335. Before I am confident doing so, I need to zoom into the lower details and looking at this 4-hour time frame. Again, can't be entirely confident because we don't have a higher low and a higher high yet on the 4-hour time frame, but I can start to increase those odds because we did break the lower high pattern. We had a little bit of a descending triangle pattern here as well that broke bullish. Bull MACD cross is close, so still not extremely confident without the higher low and higher high, but because we broke the lower highs, I am fairly confident. So the hourly time frame, big bull move. RSI not quite at 70 just yet, but the 4-hour time frame does tell me that that daily higher low is now the level to be watching, especially because a couple of levels bounced off of it. 335.13, 335 even. So 335 is the new must-hold level for this daily chart to stay in a clear higher low pattern. Resistance is 373.82, followed by 407.09 back from early, or I should say late January. So this is the most bullish chart that we've looked at just yet on this daily time frame. Let's see if either of these other two names can break it, but I doubt they can in terms of strength. So the weekly time frame for ADA BTC is still all bear. We've been pulling back for months at this point, and in terms of having any confidence that the bulls are going to show up, we don't have any because the daily chart is still very clearly lower highs and lower lows. We have not done anything to break this pattern to favor the bulls ever since back in mid-January. It was a nice equilibrium pattern that broke bearish, another equilibrium pattern that broke bearish, and now it's just all bears. The daily chart is oversold. We're watching for a daily MACD cross, but step number one, I need a 4-hour higher low and higher high. Don't have any just yet, so I need to see a break of 2673 resistance for the bulls to see any kind of action in terms of trying to form a daily bullish reversal candlestick, and the must-hold support is down at 2559. So still very early on this bounce attempt. And again, I'm not seeing anything here aside from a potential bottom fishing play that would have me interested in ADA right now. I need a daily bullish reversal candlestick at the very least before I'm interested. We do have a daily inside bar forming, so I could watch this daily inside bar tomorrow. And if it breaks bullish, then we can be looking for an oversold bounce to get a little bit more follow through. And I would not be looking for a trend change. If I'm trying to play the bottom of a dump and looking for a bounce to play out, I'm going to lock in my profit, anticipating a lower high forms. The trend very rarely changes coming off of the low. We need the higher low and the higher high to change that trend. So the initial bounce off the low, oftentimes more than not, is just another lower high. So that's the game plan that I would be using. When I'm fighting the trend, I'm locking in my profit sooner rather than later. If I'm in an uptrend like Bitcoin and I make an entry, I can let it ride a little bit longer because we've been in an uptrend for the last month. If we're in a downtrend, I'm locking in that profit sooner rather than later because I know I'm swimming upstream. NANOBTC. Weekly inside bar is forming, not a whole lot of price history. This is on Binance Exchange. Checking the daily time frame and looking at a little bit of an equilibrium here as well. We have the top of the bounce, we have our low of consolidation, our lower high, and now the bulls are trying to form a higher low. So I'm looking at a range right now of support 113 and resistance of 159. I look at the 4-hour to get more details. Can I be confident that our daily higher low is forming right now? Because again, we're in an equilibrium. Our low was back here. We need a higher low. Can I be confident that it has formed yet? No, I cannot, because the 4-hour has not given us a higher low and a higher high yet. I need to see a bull break of 1424 to see that break of the lower highs. So if that does occur, I will then be more confident that our daily higher low has been established, and we'll look for a bull move back up towards 15 to continue tightening this daily range. So there's not a whole lot of price action up at these levels. So if this equilibrium on the daily time frame that's beginning to play out, if that were to break bullish, we would be looking at some potential significant follow through because of the lack of resistance up at these levels. So again, 159, then I'm looking at 1696, and then all the way up at 18. So potential for some continuation, but we still need to form our daily higher low, and we need the 4-hour bulls to show up in order to do that. Let's check back in on Bitcoin and see if anything's changed while I've been talking. 15-minute consolidation underway after the big breakout. Nothing wrong with that consolidation at this point. The hourly chart could very easily and very likely will form a higher low here, and we'll see if the bulls can make their way back up to the mid $11,000 range overnight. Okay. I'm going to look at the YouTube chat now a bit, answer a few questions. Not going to stay on a whole lot longer. Sunday night. Want to do something. So again, don't overtrade in this market. I am trading now once every few days. I used to trade 5 times a day back in the summer. It is different. And I promise you that you can use this lull. If you, number one, this isn't a lull. If you look at stocks, we bounced 20% on Bitcoin in the last 5 days. That's not a lull. That's a lot of opportunity, but it's not what we're used to in this space. So if you are used to big moves in this space, use this time to study. And I use this example all the time, but we had the Canadian MJ breakout. We had people get really bored and action disappeared for months and months. All those people that studied and prepared themselves hit the ground running when cryptocurrency opportunity presented itself. We're going to have an opportunity in the next 5 to 10 years that we cannot even fathom what we're going to be trading. If you asked me 2 years ago, would you be trading cryptocurrency? I'd say no. So in 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, we're going to be trading something that we never anticipated we'd be trading. And it's going to be technical analysis that's going to allow us to be comfortable to just jump right into that space and be able to hit the ground running. So use this lull as a motivation to keep your education going. Good point, good question. So GDAX and Bitfinex. I call Bitfinex the home of the wicks. Bitfinex absolutely has more dollar volume than GDAX, but it also has so many fake outs, technically speaking, where we'll break a key support level, not see any follow through, and then run, and it looks like it's just, stopping, or I should say fishing for stop loss levels to knock out those stops before we get a run. So let's just see if we can get a quick example real quick. But there's so many times where we see upper wicks and lower wicks on Bitfinex that we're not seeing on GDAX. So let's just look at this hourly time frame and look at last night. We broke 11,500. That was a key psychological resistance level, and as soon as we broke it, we didn't see much follow through. And on GDAX, we never broke that psychological level. We rejected from the resistance and pulled back accordingly. Another example, just looking down here, let's see our equilibrium pattern. So here's our hourly. Let's look at the 15-minute. Our equilibrium pattern that broke bullish. Look at this lower wick here that broke support. And we check on the 15-minute time frame for Bitcoin on Coinbase, and actually it looks like it did break there as well. So I don't have any, let's see here, 3. It did break there as well. So that's actually, no, it didn't. So here we go, 530. We broke support from 230 at 530. We broke to a lower low just barely, and the bulls clearly bought that dip. But on Bitcoin, here's 230 and here's 530. It's a much more clear higher low. It's a much more clear tightening equilibrium pattern. It's following all the rules, quote unquote rules, of technical analysis, and it wasn't the same on Bitfinex. I would be a very frustrated trader if I was on Bitfinex personally, and we have to disregard some of these breaks to a certain degree. So I am using GDAX as my main chart that I'm always looking at, again, because I'm trading on it. But the fact that I see Bitfinex giving all these wicks and fake outs, if I were trading on Bitfinex, I would probably putting a little bit more emphasis in the GDAX chart because of all these fake outs. And the fact that I can just find one in the last few hours without, even needing to look very hard tells you they're happening pretty often. So there are definite wicks that are not present on GDAX that are on Bitfinex and can definitely be fake outs. For those of you with questions on inside bars, there's an entire video dedicated to it on the Trading Lessons playlist on the YouTube channel. Check it out. As far as, what 2018 is going to be with the cryptocurrency space, in my opinion, it all depends on Bitcoin and this weekly pattern that is shaping up. I don't think this weekly pattern is going to give us a clear break until, middle of the year, summer. We have multiple more months. I'm still looking for the Bitcoin bulls to see some follow through up toward the 14,000 level. From there, I'll be looking for a pullback back down towards potentially 10,000 for our lower high, higher low. And then I'll be looking in the middle of the year, perhaps late summer, for a weekly break. If we break bearish, we're heading back down under 10,000. And if we break bullish, we're looking back up at the all-time high. So again, I don't predict using technical analysis. I react to things. And the reaction from the tightening equilibrium pattern on the weekly time frame that I am anticipating is going to give us tons of information for the end of 2018, perhaps the last 4 or 5 months of 2018 in terms of direction. So that's what I'm waiting for, and I'm not looking at anything until that happens, really. And it's the same thing I'm looking at for the S&P 500 in the stock market right now. It's in a fairly similar setup, but it's going to play out sooner in the stock market as the consolidation is not as long-term that we've been seeing. In terms of bearish entries are whenever we see a support break. So here on the 15-minute time frame for Bitcoin, we had this clear bull break. Had we pulled back and broken support here at $11,090, that's a clear bearish entry. Instead of seeing, lower highs break bullish, we would see higher lows break bearish. That's when you make a bearish entry. Another example would be Ethereum on the 4-hour time frame. When we broke the Ethereum 4-hour descending triangle pattern, that was a bearish entry signal. It didn't get a whole lot of follow through, but we broke 845 support. There's your bear signal. We only dropped down $9. So that's an example of a trade that would not have seen much follow through, but you make a bearish entry at 845. It starts to play out in your favor. You set a stop loss at break even once the price gets, $10 away from you. And that allows you to have zero risk on the trade. And it was also the scenario where we had already been red for 4-hour candlesticks in a row, and the hourly RSI on Ethereum was already oversold when the bear break occurred. So those are the little details that allow you to, structure your trade around. If we had made this bear break and the RSI on the hourly was at 50, we would expect a lot more follow through than the bear break occurring with the hourly RSI already at 30 and very quickly going to be oversold. So that's just an example where the RSI on a certain time frame can tell us what to expect from the trade. So if you're saying, why did we make a clear bear break and only drop down $9? It's because the hourly RSI was already oversold right when we broke resistance. If I could only use 2 indicators on the daily, it would be volume and RSI. And that's not including price action as an indicator. I use hourly RSI levels on every time frame that I use. GDAX bots, all bots are less active. Bots make their most, well, I won't say that. Bots can definitely make a lot of money scalping very small moves in tight trading ranges. But the bots are most active when there's a lot of volatility going on, because that's a lot of opportunity. Just like I keep saying in all these videos, when we are in a consolidation pattern, we have declining volume, declining volatility, declining opportunity. It's the same for humans and robots. They have less opportunity as well. We'll look at XRP quickly. XRP was on the verge of a bear break on the daily time frame last I looked. Not anymore. So nice bull break. You can see we're in an extremely tight range. I put up a no trade zone here in one of the recent videos as well, where I said, as long as it's in between this range, I'm not interested in trading it. And I believe it was down here, and that was the key resistance up there at 958. I'd have to go back and check the video I recorded, but it was a tightening pattern with a clear bull break. Let's look at the 4-hour chart, see if it was a clear equilibrium. Not so clear. The lower highs were very clear. We had resistance at 9586, lower high. So the first lower high break on the 4-hour time frame was a signal at 92306. 4-hour RSI is very overbought. I would be looking to go bearish on Ripple rather than be going bullish at these levels, of course. I mean, you got an hourly RSI, you got a potential hourly climax, volume climax. You got an hourly RSI up at 87. You got a 4-hour RSI that's the highest it's been anytime recently. Look at the last breakout where the 4-hour RSI got to this level. We pulled back pretty hard. So I would either be looking, I would be looking for a 5-minute volume climax to go short. I would have a stop loss level not too far from where I make an entry. I would want to make it a top fishing entry ideally, where I wait for a little bit of weakness first. I don't want to stand in front of this bull train. So this is a bull train right now with volume behind it. And if I just try and jump right in and say, this is the top, and I try and time the top, it's not going to go well. I'm going to get run over. If I see some signs of weakness, whether it's on the 2-minute shorter term time frame, if volume and volatility is picking up, I zoom in. And if I start to see a 2-minute lower high and lower low, I can go bearish and use a top fishing play and say, all right, if we break the high at that point, I will exit this trade with a very small loss. and the risk to reward of a top fishing play favors reward significantly. So let's just say we see a 2-minute little lower high and lower low right now, and we drop back down to $1. Let's say I go bearish at $1 and I put my stop above 103 and say, all right, if we break 103 and see continuation, I'm going to exit. I'm risking 3 cents before I get stopped out, and the potential reward of once we do get consolidation on the hourly time frame or the 4-hour time frame would easily be 2 to 1. You know, the potential of a pullback of 6 cents down to 97. Let's see the 4-hour chart. If we pull back to 97, it's still going to be a very bullish 4-hour chart. But in terms of the risk to reward, I'm risking 3 cents to potentially gain 6 cents. And I always want that reward to outweigh the potential risk. So we are overbought in this scenario. The 4-hour volume climax is likely going to occur. Let's see, we have and as far as our alert system goes, the hourly time frame overbought climax has already gone out with the volume to back it up. The 4-hour overbought climax has gone out as well, I assume. And I don't have this exchange up on my alerts, but just knowing the criteria of what would trigger it, we are overbought. So of course, there's no bullish entries at this point. I would be looking for a bearish scalp. And I say scalp because, again, I'm fighting the trend. If I'm going bearish, I am fighting this trend, and I'm going to lock in my profit sooner rather than later. So as far as the signal for the bull break, it was the break of the 4-hour lower highs, or it was the break of the daily chart if you wanted to be more patient. Again, that's the scenario where you give up a little bit of reward to give up some risk. I could have entered once the 4-hour lower highs broke, or I could have waited until the highest price that we've seen in the last 7 trading days broke, and either one saw significant follow through. It's just where you want your risk to reward to be. So I don't know if Ripple is news related or what. When I see a breakout like this, I definitely look to see if it's news related, because as we know, news events can lead to RSI levels getting more extreme in both directions, whether it's bullish or bearish news. So that would be the first thing. Is there news? If there is no news, then I know to be looking for a bearish entry. If there is news, then I'm going to be more patient and wait for the bulls to really tire themselves out. But right now, with the 15-minute, the hourly, and the 4-hour RSI all in the upper 70s to mid 80s, I definitely know that the top of this bull move is likely in sooner rather than later. With regards to new and decentralized exchanges, I will welcome them with open arms if they give me the tools that I want as a trader. But again, it's not something that I have time to go around and research every single decentralized exchange that pops up. I'm going to wait until the market chooses one that's a winner, and then I will look at that one. Again, it's just to save time. I don't have the time to research them all and to try them all. Same thing with looking for ICOs, looking for the ICO that's going to be the winner. It's just the amount of time put in is not worth it to me to try and find the needle in the haystack. So I'm not going to do that with exchanges as well. I'm going to wait for the market to decide this is the winner, and then I'm going to go in and say, okay, is this something that I want to use? Oh, that's right. Ripple and Coinbase on CNBC. That's definitely notable. And that is the news that is likely making this run. And that will likely be a sell the news event. Unless Coinbase and Ripple, okay, so this is a perfect example. So we know the date that Ripple is going to be on CNBC with Coinbase right now. This right now is everybody pricing in Ripple getting added to Coinbase. If Ripple does not get added to Coinbase the day that we see the airing of the segment, we're going to see a sell the news event, and it's going to be a great opportunity to go bearish. Okay, so this is the market pricing in. Ripple's going to be on CNBC. A lot of people are going to see it, and we might get this announcement from Coinbase. If we get the announcement, then the price will be justified. The market will have priced in the bullish news, and we'll probably see some follow through to the upside if that occurs. But again, because the market is already pricing in Coinbase potentially adding Ripple and it being announced at this event, if it does not happen, we will sell off pretty hard pretty quickly, and there will be a bearish entry opportunity. I would suggest a larger account to trade stocks than crypto. Again, the fees per trade are fixed. They don't change. They favor whales. The stock market is built to benefit the rich. It's just that simple. It's the world we live in. And as far as insider trading goes, how about this with Carl Icahn selling, what was it, $500 million, $300 million worth of steel? Was it steel or aluminum? Either one. He sold millions and millions of dollars worth of stock, and then Trump comes out in the same month and announces these tariffs, and all those stocks absolutely dump. There is insider trading going on where it's federally legal, federally illegal in the stock market on a daily basis, and there's nothing being done about it. There is nowhere near enough manpower to hone in and to reel in the crazy, unfair trading going on. And the fact that it's not illegal for cryptocurrency, we're going to see it all the time. Picture behind me is France, and it means absolutely nothing to me. Just there. And I actually looked how to change the background before I did this video, and then quickly gave up because I didn't want to put time into some kind of space background. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here. Let's go one more question. Appreciate you all tuning in on this fine Sunday. Again, leave your comment on the video once it's uploaded, and I will pick random people for the course. Good question. Not sure if Bitcoin loses the #1 spot, I would anticipate that the entire cryptocurrency space will more likely correlate with the #1 coin. That being said, if we still have a ton of exchanges doing these pairings in BTC, there will definitely still be a strong correlation with BTC. If all these exchanges go to USD and to fiat in their comparison, then I would expect them to go with the new market cap leader for a stronger correlation. Quick BTC update. So we're just looking for an hourly higher low to form. Healthy consolidation at this point. And I will be confident that the hourly higher low has formed when the 15-minute time frame gives me a higher low and a higher high. So I appreciate you all tuning in, and I will be back for the normal videos tomorrow, and we'll pick what I usually wait 24 hours to pick the winners on the YouTube comments. So no rush over there. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Looking forward to continuing working on the alert service, adding features, and we're now working on the website upgrade and the chart system, and we're going to add a chat room to the alerts website and things like that. So continuing onward, and I hope you all continue to do good things and reach out to someone. If you have a friend that's just starting to learn technical analysis, get their foot in the door, give them a little, half-hour lesson, explain what a candlestick is and what it means, explain what volume and RSI mean. I appreciate you all, and we'll see you tomorrow.